A few weeks ago, I created a video where I talk about 5 famous Marvel movies that would be ranked high, but I would actually rank pretty low on a Marvel ranking list. And I'm pretty sure a good bit of people who like that video want me to do the same thing for DC. However, I'm not necessarily different when it comes to the mainstream opinion on the DC film franchise. I mean, sure, I have some big takes on Man of Steel, but that's only one thing that I have that revolves around DC movies in general. So I figured rather than doing 5 popular DC films that I would rank low on the list, I figured I would just give out 5 hot takes that I have on the DC movie franchise in general. We're gonna start off at the very bottom, which is number 5, and that right there is, I think Watchmen shouldn't have been a movie in the first place. Now, I'm not saying that the Watchmen movie is bad, it's got some really good stuff in it, but what would have made this a lot better and would have received a massive amount of critical reception is if this single type of Watchmen movie and the storyline would have been made into a mini-series on television. The novel itself has like at least 12 chapters that are filled with a bunch of different characters, and all of them are focused with different types of storylines and backstories that are going on within their characters' lives, that it's very hard to tie in all of those story arcs into one movie. Everything that's in the Watchmen movie does work because the visuals are done correctly, and the type of storyline that's from the novel is captured the exact same way as it is captured in the movie. The problem here is that when you do an actual character study of everybody from the source material, it requires a lot of slow pacing and character interactions, and that doesn't really work for a full movie. It works better as a television show because you are able to do that. In a movie, you would have to cut out certain things in order for you to go ahead and go along with the story that's already there from the novel. And if you're skimming those moments and not adding in those scenes that are actually quintessential for the movie in order for it to work, it ends up making the movie feel dull and it drags out. So it's understanding why some people would not be interested in watching it. Critics will say that it's unique and great, and it does pay homage to the actual novel. But in order for us to get more of an emotional attachment to these characters, and to really grab hold of what the movie's meaning is supposed to be like, and have that affect us a lot more stronger, creating it as a television show would be way better than doing it as a movie. As a movie, it's not going to work. Hot take number 4. I think Ocean Master's Orm is the best villain in the DC Extended Universe, period. I think Orm presents himself as exactly what an epic DC villain needs to be like. He acts with reason and respect, and he thinks of himself as a person that is all about peace. But when he looks upon a different species that would tend to degrade his own humankind, it gets him riled up and wants to take in evasive action so that his own humankind can earn respect. The writing for this character is great. The casting choice that they have to play this kind of character is also really good. It is simple and easy to understand why he is acting the way he acts, and all of it is executed greatly. There are a little bit of gaping plot holes with him and Black Manta, but aside from that, if you took Black Manta out of the full picture, I still think that this villain is worthy of being the best villain in the extended universe. In fact, I want to see more DC villains that are exactly like this. The villain in Shazam, while his motivation at the opening, I do understand why he is doing it, there is a huge time jump in the movie where it makes me question why is he still going at what he is doing in the present day. General Zod's development in Man of Steel is really good, and I would have picked him as the best villain in the DC Extended Universe. His actual chemistry and talking to everybody else in the movie is severely lacking, and is also very important for a villain that is supposed to be that epic, that it makes the villain suffer a little bit. With Orm, there's enough character interactions with both him and Aquaman and all of the other characters in Atlantis. His motivation is really easy to understand, and the acting, the writing, and the execution I think were done great. Hot take number 3. I think the story in Batman Returns is a lot more interesting than the story that's in the 1980s Batman. In fact, if you really look into it, Tim Burton's first Batman movie doesn't really have much of a story at all. The only type of substance that's in there is that the Joker was created, it turns out he was a part of Batman's family being dead, and Batman meets a woman and that's it. The Batman Returns story talks about characters who would want to find a place where they feel like they would belong, rather than feeling like that they are created as monsters and rejected by society by any means. Sure, the visuals that they have in here is like crazy Tim Burton type of style, but the type of story that is made in here is pure Batman. I will admit, the kind of story that they have in the first Batman movie, it is pretty much like Batman, but this type of story works better as if it was in the Batman the Animated Series. The film has very little substance, that it feels like the film is just stretching out this very little story and putting in as much filler as it possibly could. Whether or not you care for the Burton visuals in Batman Returns, it has an engaging story where you really want to see if Selina Kyle and Bruce Wayne are going to end up together, figure out if they can keep the relationship as one, even though they are both vigilantes in disguise, and provides a lot of deep conflicts on how Batman would reflect himself as if he's related to the Penguin or Selina Kyle as Catwoman in general. Hot take number 2. I don't think that any of the jokes that are in Richard Lester's Superman 2 are that bad. I like that this movie is kind of self-aware on some of the tropes that they like to play in. And because this movie is sort of self-aware on some of the storylines that they are talking about and the way that some of the characters act in this movie, when they try to play in a little humor on what would happen if this was in the movie, it actually gives me a chuckle here and there. It's like when people watch Spider-Man in Civil War and they try to make notes on why Aunt May is so hot in the film, but then the MCU was kind of being self-aware of it when Tony Stark decided to asking Peter Parker, "Nobody knows about your powers, not even your insanely attractive aunt." That's the type of feeling I get whenever I watch Superman 2. I feel like that movies that were dated back then in the 80s kind of gotten away with certain things on how to tell jokes on certain characters and being self-aware on the type of stories that they're doing, which is why some of their humor, in my opinion, kind of makes me laugh every now and then when I watch the Richard Lester version of Superman 2. I'm pretty sure this type of humor doesn't work for everybody because this is some of the problems people have compared to this version and the Donner cut, but to be honest, I don't mind the Richard Lester version of Superman 2 because it still gives me the exact same type of idea where I understood the main goal of what the movie is trying to talk about. The humor's not for everybody, but to me, it makes me laugh. And my number 1 hot take for all of the DC movies is that I think Jeremy Irons is the best live-action version of Alfred we've ever had. Yes, I think he's actually better than Michael Caine. He adds in this sort of humorous, weary attitude whenever he is interacting with Bruce Wayne. Because he is a butler and he has to do exactly everything that Bruce Wayne says, he seems like that he is just dragged into this mess and gets so fed up whenever Bruce Wayne acts irrationally as Batman, to the point where he can act like a great, powerful motivator on what Bruce Wayne should do right, but at other times, he can also act pretty humorous because he throws in a little one-liner here and there. You don't really see that much with Alfred in any of the movies or in the animated series. Usually he is just a butler that does whatever Bruce Wayne wants to say or do. And the Michael Caine version added in a little bit of a twist, doing something where he can be a better Batman in case he does something that is irrational. Which is why Michael Caine really does work as Alfred. But what makes Jeremy Irons better than Michael Caine is that he adds in this personality of being a little more humorous, because as a butler, not only does he have to take care of Bruce Wayne because he's going out and doing irrational stuff, which makes him incredibly fed up, but he also has to do exactly whatever Bruce Wayne says as he does it. Sometimes he has this attitude of saying like, "Go ahead, do whatever you want. I mean, I'm the butler. I can't tell you what to do, even though I'll try to tell you what to do." You're not going to be able to get another kind of Alfred like Jeremy Irons, and that's why he was my favorite version out of any of the other live-action Alfreds. So there you go, guys. Those are my top 5 hottest takes on all of the live-action DC movies in the DC franchise. What are some of your hottest takes for DC movies? Put them down in the comment section below, and let's start a conversation about it. And like this video if you agree with what I say, or dislike this video if you disagree with what I say. I don't mind the dislikes. So that is it I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be sure to see you in the next video.